Hey everybody, welcome to my Facebook Live. I'm Marc Malkin. Welcome to my home. Welcome to my living room. Today I have a really special show. It's something different. Usually I have celebrities coming over to the house. Today I have some other very special people here, including Karl Schmid, the ABC entertainment reporter who recently came out as HIV positive. But right now, sitting on the orange couch are Darian Williams and Carlitos Rodriguez from Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. And you are here being honored by a group for your work with Stories Untold. Tell me about Stories Untold.
So Stories Untold is an organization that what we want to do, what our purpose is, we want to amplify the voices of people who have yet to spoken out. There's many students in Marjory Stoneman Douglas that want to speak out, and we don't want them to feel silenced. And this isn't only about Douglas, this is about survivors all across the nation who have experienced gun violence directly or indirectly. You know, they don't know where the first step might be, so we want to be their outlet and we want to be their voice.
And how do you give them the outlet? How do you give them the voice?
We would have a Twitter page, and then they would contact us through Twitter or even through any other platform that we have, and we would just either they'll come to us or we'll find the people, so that normally the news channels and the media would normally just put them to the side and focus on the main group of people that are like the top 10 in our school. Now that we have a platform to actually give exposure and a voice to those who normally wouldn't.
And it's not exactly like you have a beef with the other kids who are speaking out, but you just saw there was some unrepresentation of students of color, from what I understand.
Yeah, and no, we love what they're doing. We support them to the max. I feel like their leadership is very powerful in the nation right now. So we're definitely working alongside each other and supporting one another. And yes, as students, we didn't know what our first steps were going to be because we wanted to speak out, and we felt like if we felt this way, there were definitely other people across the nation that felt the same way. And there's people from Columbine or from Sandy Hook, from Virginia Tech, that it's been years since they've spoken, and they want to be able to speak out, and they have that pain repressed in their heart, but they just don't know where to start. So we're glad we started Stories Untold, and we're glad that Stories Untold is able to help the community and it's able to help so many people.
I know it's hard, but take me back to that day of the shooting. Where were you that morning?
So everything started out normal. I brought my camera to school to do a Valentine's vlog, and at the end of the day, that's not how it turned out. We were actually in the same room.
You were?
Yeah, we were in the 100 building in the office, and it was just an experience that you get these text messages and you look on Twitter and you see that you're trending, and everything accumulates and it just stays in your mind, and it's like a chaos. It screams and there's confusion, and I know that that day's something that's hard to talk about, especially because it happened only a couple months ago, and you know, we're still coping, but I feel like through Stories Untold, we're able to do what we like, which is filmmaking, and be able to help many people in the community. So it's been like a distraction and a healthy one for us, and it's kind of kept our minds off of our trauma.
Darren, do you remember like when you figured out or understood what was going on? Because there was a lot of confusion. When did you realize in that room, okay, there's a shooting?
It took me a while to process it. It didn't seem real, and it's not something that like I'm not a person to take sadness that easily. So when I was in the office, it was a cramped room, and then I was just sitting with my friend, and we were just on our phones, and I couldn't process the pain that I should have been feeling. Even when we walked out of the school, all the guns were pointing in our faces. We were walking past, and it took me a while, and it didn't take me till I was at my friend's funeral to actually realize that really just happened, and it hit really hard.
Who was your friend?
Joaquin Oliver.
Yeah.
And that hit really hard, but Stories Untold has helped me because I can now connect with other people as well, and not only can we help other people, but it's also a form of therapy for us because we can understand how other people feel and know that we're not the only people.
And you said you've been hearing from people from Sandy Hook, from Columbine. What have you been hearing from them?
We've had the opportunity to go to Colorado and meet with Columbine survivors, and that was the first group of survivors that we met outside of Douglas. And being with them helped us a lot to understand how communities have healed and how they have healed and how they have processed the information and taken control of their life and their actions after a shooting. And we've also had the opportunity to meet with Pulse survivors, with survivors from Aurora, with many people across the nation that have a common voice, a voice that of a person that has lost somebody due to gun violence. And we're a group of people who right now are just urging to speak out because we want to see change, because we don't never want this to happen again in another community.
Dan, what do you think, what kind of change do you think has to happen? What do we need?
Honestly, I think we just need more recognition of who's in office and who we're voting for, because I know a lot of people just go to the ballots and they vote for just whatever name sounds cool, honestly speaking. So we just need to be more accountable for our choices and to understand what we're doing.
And do you think this work will take you even, I mean, you're only 16, you're only 17, you have a full life ahead of yourselves, but do you think this work will extend to after you leave high school, that you'll always be a part of Stories Untold?
Definitely.
Yeah, most definitely, it's a new project. We make films, we're creative, and this is definitely a new project where we have to portray and listen to these stories, where we have to listen to other people's stories of how they lost their friend, how they lost their best friend, and what they experienced that day. But through it all, we're helping them have a voice. We're helping the community. They're giving us advice, and it's something that I definitely want to keep going with.
How hard was it to return to the school?
I don't know, honestly, because it was so many mixed emotions going in. It was happy to see my friends, but at the same time, it was a weird feeling. And also, you have security guards in every single corner of the school. It doesn't feel like, it just feels like, honestly, prison. I've never thought I'd say that about school, because before that, everyone makes jokes like, yeah, school's prison, you have to go to school every day, blah, blah, but there's security fences around everywhere, people looking at you everywhere you go. You have to walk a certain way, basically, because if you look a little weird, they'll come to you like, are you okay, or something. So it's not fun at all, and it's not a good experience to go through.
What about for you, Carly?
The amount of security is something that I definitely noticed and that definitely bothered me. Not only because it made me feel uncomfortable going back to school, just seeing, I know I get they're supporting us and that they say they're here for us, but even after coming back to school, a couple weeks later, they made more mistakes and they kept on making them. So it felt like they were putting up a fake smile just to be there for us. And these officers, having an excess amount of officers, for me as a minority, as a Latino, for my African American friends that they've talked to me about it, I know that for them it was uncomfortable because there's been police brutality, and I know that they have that fear, and I as a Latino, I'm afraid that they're gonna look me up or see where I come from and they start bugging me, they start judging me, calling me names. And
But nothing has anything like that happen.
No, but it's something that's there.
Right.
Just as the thought of a school shooting, where it shouldn't be there, but unfortunately it is. And I think that unity is what kind of has brought us students even more closer, and that it just needs to bring the adults even closer so they can decide and they can protect our future, because they have the right to vote. We're 17, 16, and they need to understand that we are the future and that they need to protect us.
So what could people out there who don't live in Parkland, who live anywhere, what could they do to help? What do you think that other people out there to help this situation?
Anyone can speak out, anyone can do something. Anyone, even when they feel like they don't know where to start, they can do a tiny little piece of action, and action is very important. For the community, a small step can lead into millions of ripples. So people can speak out, they can do their own town halls, they can create videos like we're doing and share their own stories.
What do you want people to do, Darian?
I just want people to be accountable for themselves and understand who they're voting for, and if anything's wrong, for them to speak up and not just let it pass by.
And each one, are you hopeful?
Yes.
You are. Why?
I know things are going to change, and I know things are going to get better because it's already starting to show. And even though, not only as Stoneman Douglas, but I can see as a nation that people are actually starting to get up off their couches and actually move and do what they need to do.
People are listening, and it's important that they listen. But it's important that they listen and they comprehend it and they do something about it. Because if they just listen, things are not going to go anywhere. And as a nation, I feel like there is hope, but there are times where I feel like there is no hope. There are times where I break down and I ask myself, why am I doing this? Because I'm not from this country. I am from Venezuela. But I came to the United States. My family came here to protect my future, and I'm going to do that for me and for my sisters. So I am hopeful in my actions. I have faith that if I stay strong and that I keep on pushing forward, things will happen. But I can't avoid that sometimes I feel hopeless.
Well, hopefully things will get changed with young people like you making a change. If you want to know more, you go to @StoriesUntoldUS, right, on Twitter. You could send videos to you, post videos, hashtag Stories Untold also.
Yes.
So guys, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It's really great. So now, as I've told you, I did the AIDS life cycle for the first time back in, a couple of weeks ago. So AIDS life cycle is a bike ride from San Francisco to California, raising money for HIV and AIDS services here in Los Angeles and in San Francisco. It's really the most amazing experience I've ever had. It was a life-changing experience. I did it with my husband. Fabian had actually done the ride. This was his 8th time. It was my first time. And it's basically 2,300 riders riding down the coast of California from San Francisco to Los Angeles, bringing awareness, bringing visibility about HIV and AIDS. And it was so life-changing for me that the day after we got back, I went on to my social media and actually went public with the fact that I'm HIV positive. It wasn't an easy thing. It was something that I had been thinking about doing, but I'm glad I did it. And one of the inspirations for doing that is Karl Schmid.
Me?
You, yes.
Get out of here.
ABC entertainment reporter Karl Schmid. He came out as HIV positive back in March.
The end of March.
The end of March.
My little fingers got a little carried away one night, and whoops-a-daisy. By the way, you look fantastic, and thank you so much for doing that ride. I mean, you guys raised a huge amount of money.
16.6 million.
16.6 million. Huge amount of money, and you had this journey of discovery. So, well done. You're a much braver man than I am.
Well, speaking about going back in March,
yes.
I have our text messages.
Aha, okay.
So one night I was sitting, I think it was that night, I was sitting in bed.
It was a Friday evening.
Yes, and Karl and I had been talking about both of us being positive. We had talked about, should we go public, should we not go public, how to go public. And you sent me a text that said, I'm on the verge of being public about my status, but not sure how to word it. And you worded it beautifully.
Well, that's amazing because that's the power of 2 vodka martinis and half a Valium, Mark. You said this would be a candid chat, and I'm going to be honest. Well, I've sort of told the story a few times, but it all came out of, yes, you're right, we were having conversations. I've been HIV positive for 10 years. My friends knew, my family knew, none of my colleagues, immediate work colleagues knew, not in this country anyway. But there is this great Instagram, do you call it a feed? What do you call someone's? It's called the AIDS Memorial.
It's Instagram.
Yeah, it's the AIDS Memorial. And it does something very important. It remembers all the people that we lost to HIV and AIDS back in the day. And their sort of hashtag is what is remembered lives. And you have one of these t-shirts. Yeah. And the guys and boys in the band in New York have, there's a lot of people, and they're great t-shirts. And it's a great way for people to share stories so that we don't forget about the people that we lost. And I never had a chance to, I didn't have, a great uncle that was my amazing uncle. Like, you had a real personal connection. Mm-hmm. I didn't. But I wanted to support the cause. I wanted to wear the t-shirt, and it just all kind of lined up and felt right in the moment. And maybe that came across in what I'd written as well.
What's the message you want out there, like going public with your status?
Well, for me, it's this stigma, and it's this fear. You know, a lot of us still have imagery in our heads from the 80s and early 90s when HIV and AIDS was at its absolute worst. I think sort of millennials do a much better job and are much more educated about this than people of my age group, our age group, and older. But it's this fear that continues, that we have this imagery of very sick people in bed, hospital beds, being held on to by their loved ones, dying. And look, it was important back in the late 80s and 90s to have those images. We didn't know what was going on. We had to put the fear of God into people. The problem with that is we kind of found these great medicines and fantastic, medical research and scientific research, and we can now, like you and I, take a pill or 2 pills or whatever a day, and we live very healthy lives. In fact, the CDC and others have gone on to say we probably have better life expectancy than those who don't, because we go to the doctor. But back then it just put this fear. Now it's very, very different. And I hope that for the remaining minutes of the spotlight shining on me, we can start a conversation about stopping the stigma, because I really do believe that if we get back into having a conversation about what HIV means now and today, and we look at it properly and objectively, and we take that fear out of people's minds, HIV is something that can go away.
Take me back to the day that you were told you were positive.
It was a dreary October day in London, and my boyfriend and I at the time were having some issues, and he was in another country and I was in London, and so we said, well, you should probably get an HIV test. Oh, I'm going to get one, you get one, and we'll be fine. And it was just sort of that's what we'll go and do. And I walked from my office across Soho Square to the Dean Street Clinic at like 3 p.m. They pricked my finger. And I'd been in this clinic a lot because as a sexually active man in his 20s, I think you have a responsibility to yourself and others to get yourself checked out. So I wasn't a stranger to this place. And I certainly wasn't a stranger to how the procedure went. So they pricked my finger, and then like 15 minutes later, they said, oh, come in, and you sort of go in. They said, have a seat. This is all pretty normal. And they said, right. And she looked down. And I went, oh, they've never said right and looked down. She said, came back positive. And I just went, okay, now what? She goes, well, we'll do another test. There was another test done. It came back positive. And I had to walk back to my office. And it's strange. It felt like a red digital countdown clock had started ticking backwards over my head. I went back to my office and I called a colleague down to a conference room, and she walked in and burst into tears, and I said, well, that's not going to help. And for the next few hours, I sat with a small team of colleagues, and we got rather drunk on the roof of the building. And then from that day forward, it really was, and I think a lot of people who have any kind of crisis in their life, I think it's often harder for the people around them, because I think when you get dealt this kind of information, you go, okay, now what do I do? And that's what I did. I sort of went, okay, what do I do? And it's one step at a time, and you arm yourself with as much knowledge, and you see the doctors, and that's all you can do as a person. What about you? What about when you were diagnosed?
When I was diagnosed, I was sitting on the couch. It was in October also, actually.
What date?
9 years ago. 9 years ago.
Oh, do you remember what day in October?
I don't remember what
Mine's
day.
the 3rd.
And my doctor called, and my doctor never would call. It would be the nurses call, say, oh, like you said, like we're gay men, we get our blood tested for this, that, whatever. And I think it was actually around my annual checkup. And my doctor called and said, Mark, I need to talk to you about your HIV test. I came back positive. And I said, okay. And he said it could be a false positive, which does happen. We need to take the blood again. Why don't you come back to the office today and we'll do it. But there was a part of me that was relieved.
I know exactly what you mean.
There are people who are HIV positive who feel like they knew they had it. I unfortunately got in trouble with drugs and alcohol, and I did some really stupid things, and I, really put my life at risk. But it was just kind of a relief. I just had to know, and I knew, and sort of like what you said. Okay, so what do you do now?
Right.
And my
Because you can't wind it back.
No, you can't wind it back. It is what it is. And I started treatment right away. My doctor was right away. And I think at the beginning I was on maybe 2 pills a day. Now I'm on 1 pill a day.
How does it affect you? I'm taking over now
Sure,
because
no,
this is
that's
what
okay.
I do.
This is what you do.
But
Yeah.
for people watching who scratch their heads and go, yeah, but they're HIV positive. But how does it really affect your daily life?
It affects my daily life in the sense that every morning when I take the pill, you're reminded you have it. There are days where I wonder, like, oh, what is the long-term effects of the pills, or what's going to be long-term effects of just having HIV. But for the most part, I mean, I really don't think about it.
Right.
I'm healthy, I'm strong, and one of the reasons doing the ride is I volunteered on the AIDS Life Cycle last year, and I just saw how out people were about their status. And I stood up one night when they asked people who are HIV positive, if you're comfortable, please stand up. And I stood up, and that was a year ago, last week. And this year, I've been thinking about coming out as positive, and I got it all in my head that I was going to do it for a newspaper and a magazine. I got too wrapped up in like work stuff. And I came back that Saturday with my husband, who's also HIV positive, and he had come out as HIV positive a few weeks before on Facebook. And then you came out as HIV positive.
It's all the rage now.
Yeah, it's very
Everyone's
trendy.
doing it. Literally.
It's very trendy. Don't do it. I mean,
Hang on.
No.
You know what? I will just to jump in. It's like coming out. We all have to come out. Like when we come out as gay men or lesbian or whatever. Although I've often said that coming out HIV positive was far harder to people, and has been, than coming out as gay. And again, that comes back to the stigma.
Comes back to the stigma. Comes back to
the fear, the internalized. You've been getting messages from people, right? Complete strangers?
Complete strangers from around the world. And people ask me like, oh, could you help me come out to my mom? And, listen, I know I have some followers on social media. It's not huge, but it's some. And I knew people would read it.
Don't sell yourself short.
And I was, I'm touched and taken aback by, it was all support. I got one negative comment on Instagram and some troll about, you're a drug addict, blah, 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 you deserve it, whatever. I ignored people like that. Lovely people. But for you, I'm married now, and in a very happy marriage.
Yes, you are. To a very handsome man, if I may say so.
He is. How do you navigate dating?
Well, do you know what? I haven't. And funnily enough, since coming out, and I've gotten involved with some organizations like U Equals You, which is based on uequalsyou.org, but on the CDC, which has come out officially and said being HIV positive and undetectable effectively is no risk to a negative partner. You cannot pass this on. Right. And that's great for a lot of people.
Tell people what undetectable means.
Undetectable means that you cannot, the virus is so sort of low in your system that they can't see it, essentially, in the most basic terms. It's still there, but it's so minimal, it really makes no difference. And what that means for lots of people, it means people can conceive and have children. It means that people can feel like they have a real chance at a normal life, because this stigma, to go back to that word, has caused internalized stigma. I'm not worth it. I'm less than. There's a word we use in the gay community. Gay men use it a lot, especially on these social media, these hookup apps. And it's the first question, and I know a lot of people don't mean for this to be negative. So if you're one of these people, just take a moment and think about this. When you ask somebody if they're clean, try and pick another word other than clean. Right. While on the surface it seems like nothing, but to an HIV positive, it implies that there's something dirty, or that what you do is dirty and shameful, and that gets it. And then we hide and we put our heads in the sand and we don't get tested and we don't talk about it. As I said, it's not 1984 anymore. It's 2018. This is what HIV positive looks like. Some would say better. You be the judge, send us a message. But this
Great.
is this is what it looks like to be HIV positive. And we are healthy, and we are fit, and we're active, and for the most part, some of the times we're happy.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have bad days,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean that we're emaciated in a hospital ward where doctors and nurses don't even want to touch us. In this country, you and I can still be sent to prison, Mark, for not disclosing our HIV status to a sexual partner, even though the CDC says there's effectively no
Right.
risk,
Right.
and we have safe sex, you wear a condom, but I didn't tell you that I was HIV positive, I can go to jail.
Yeah.
That's wrong. And that's in this country.
This country.
Mind you, there's a lot of things going in this country that
Right.
we're scratching our heads.
Let's not get.
No, let's not
there.
go down that path. But
You have spoken about someone throwing a drink in your face.
Yes,
Could you tell us about that?
well, yeah, and I sort of found I was damned if I did and damned if I don't.
About
coming
VOM.
out, about my status. Because you go on a date with somebody and you go, well, this is nice, we had a nice time, let's have a second date. The second date goes well, very good, maybe there's a little smooch or something,
Smooch?
just a bit of a smooch, maybe we'll go for another date. Third date, maybe a little bit more than a smooch,
You got the
and it
picture.
starts going somewhere and you think, well, I have to do the right thing and tell you I'm HIV positive. Well, now I'm a prick, can I say that on here?
Yeah.
Now I'm not a nice person because I've had, well, why the hell didn't you tell me? Don't you think I should have known? And yes, but there was never a situation where you were put in any kind of risk whatsoever. And I don't know what's going to happen after the first. So then I go into I flip it around and we sit down on the first date and we order a glass of, rosé, and I say, so I just want to get this out in the open up front. I'm HIV positive. And they look at you like, well, you're crazy. What do you think's going to happen here? You think I'm going to go straight to bed? So it became really difficult for me. And I've come to really discover about myself, especially in the last 2 months, I internalized this stigma.
Yeah.
And I just stopped dating people. I still have a real problem with it. And that's something that in talking about this and being open about it, I'm really starting to discover about myself, that I have put up a lot of walls and barriers. This is me being very, very candid and frank with you. But I don't go on dates because I just can't deal with it. And it has made me feel less than.
Yeah, I mean, for me, not going public, what I've realized by going public is that I had a lot of shame attached to it, and I didn't think I had
No,
shame.
I
was
was
just
the
like,
same.
this is me, I'm married, blah, blah, blah. What many people do know is, I lost 2 uncles to AIDS early in the epidemic. So, HIV/AIDS has a history in my family. I didn't want to worry my family. I didn't want to tell my family. But in the end, for me, my message is, my hashtag is visibility matters.
I love this hashtag.
And I just want young people out there to know that I don't want them to get HIV, but if by some chance they get HIV, it's going to be okay. You're not a bad person.
No.
You're not less than. There is the medical care. The issue is you have to get the medical care.
Mark, undetectable equals untransmittable. That is a fact.
Right.
Undetectable equals untransmittable. And you get more information at u=u.org. No, if you have got questions, because a lot of people do have questions,
Yeah.
and they go, what does it mean to be undetectable? And all I can say to people is educate yourself. And if you're scared or you're one of those people that has hit us up, I mean, I've had people message me and say, thank you for making me not feel like there's something wrong with me. There is nothing wrong with you.
No.
There never was anything wrong with you. So, June 27th, National HIV Testing Day.
Yeah, June 27th.
Has
Get tested, be
this been
safe.
candid enough for you?
This has been very candid. Thank you, Carl. We're going to leave now because Carl obviously wants to go to bed.
No, I've just been candid and comfortable
this
with
candid?
you. I've
Is
got
this-
my feet on the sofa though.
That's
So.
okay. Thank you, everybody, for tuning
Thank
in to
you.
my latest Facebook Live. I have some other guests planned coming up in the next few weeks. I'll let you know about that sooner than later. And for now, have a great Thursday.
You too.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Carl.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.